Hi, my name is Nicole English, and I'm here to give my part of the mini workshop using Hispanic dances to teach Hispanic culture, diversity, tolerance, and inclusion online, an interactive and practical approach to Hispanic culture. So I'm going to show you briefly my abstract here. In this session, this workshop, you'll learn about ways of teaching Hispanic culture and diversity online or face-to-face using dance as a focus. My colleague Chita uses flamenco. I'm going to use Afro-Cuban rumba as my example. We use two different approaches. I'm going to use social learning, which is a sociological approach, and Chita uses a task-based learning approach. So attendees will learn about diversity, tolerance, inclusion, and social justice while learning about the dance and its social context. So by extension, we all learn more to be more tolerant and accepting of different cultures. And I will go to my next slide. This is doing my part of the teaching, teaching rumba, and explaining the cultural relevance of the dances. You'll see this in the video. So my plan for my slides is first to explain why using dance. Other activities, of course, would also work. Could be based on sports or gaming or sewing or cooking. Any embodied cultural practice would work. My thing happens to be dance, so I'm presenting dance. I'm going to give briefly a theoretical context, the underpinnings, and explain what the class is, what it does, what we do in the class, and how we use the dances to teach diversity, social issues, and history, and to explain how multiculturalism can work in real life. We'll be giving examples and then walking through a sample class. So dance can be used as a lens to teach social concepts such as colonialism, slavery, social justice, social class, social positioning, inequalities, cultural customs, language, dress, religion, different festivals, celebrations, holidays, of course, food, everybody loves food, and then ethnicity and race relations, and gender roles. The theoretical underpinnings are based on Mead, his theory of action and self, also Dewey's social activism theory, McNeil, his muscular bonding theory, which is based on chills, and then Sheriff and Sheriff, realistic conflict theory, which states that prejudice is dismantled by contact, collaboration, and common goals. So, my main theory is what I called embodied social learning theory. So it's the perspective that participation in dance or other physical activities creates a body schema and social bonds that make dance a powerful mechanism for learning or teaching social behaviors and social concepts. Plus, embodied activities have a huge impact on learning and retention. For example, if you think about our everyday world concepts, they are grounded in the body, and this is based on the work by Johnson. So examples can be seen in everyday language when we talk about being head of the class, or facing up to the music, or lend me your ears, or keep an eye on it, or give me a hand, or the long arm of the law, or this idea has legs, or the heart of the matter, or not having the stomach for it. So you can see different body parts are help us create metaphors for interacting with the rest of the world. So our Hispanic dance sessions at Fort Hays State University are practical hands-on learning sessions. We teach dance steps, dance choreography. We also teach cultural context and diversity that each dance and country, each culture provides. And all the dances we teach are somehow connected to Hispanic culture because that's the focus. These are the teachers. Chita and I are the faculty teachers, and then in rotation we have also some student teachers that help us out, and I wanted to give them credit. This is a sample schedule that we might have in a particular semester. Here we are teaching in class. In the classroom, the dance room, the studio. Now, what I'm going to be teaching today in the examples that you're going to see are the cultural content from Afro-Cuban dances, particularly rumba. So I'm going to teach about how the posture of rumba is indicative of African origins, the different formations of rumba dance compared to colonial dances such as danzón or contradanza, habanera, which were originally danced as quadrilles. There were different partnering styles between the rumba and European colonial dancing. In rumba, the partners face off, whereas in colonial dances, the partner style was, the typical ballroom frame. The body movements are different. In rumba and other mestizo dances, there were lots of body movements, movement of the hips, the torsos, but very simple footwork. European colonials had little body movement, but very intricate foot patterns. So this, for example, is me explaining about the 3 different cultural influences in Caribbean music and dance, particularly Hispanic Caribbean music and dance, which are the Spanish, the indigenous, and the African. And then here I'm demonstrating some of the postures in the rumba, the basic rumba step. The more upright posture was typical of North African and the Mediterranean area. It was very upright. Whereas the bent over pattern, kind of a readiness, as in, readiness for an attack, was more West African, and that bent over posture, there was more facing off that way when couples would dance. So most of the African slaves actually came from West Africa, so you see that bent over posture throughout different rumba steps. Here I'm demonstrating some of the hip movements in rumba and how that differs from the colonial dances. The interesting thing about it was that the colonials would look at the rumba dancers, and because of all the body movements, they thought of it as being very lascivious, whereas the mestizos would look at the colonials and see them in this European ballroom frame and see men and women touching each other, even though there was not a lot of body movement. And so they thought this touching, this male and female, almost in an embrace, was kind of lascivious, dancing that way. There were differences in formations too. Typically in rumba, it was a circle or an open circle, like in a C formation, with turn taking. So individuals would take turns being in the center of the circle, or couples or trios would dance together in the center of the circle. This is very common in many indigenous dances. In contrast, European colonials generally used the quadrilles that were very popular in Europe at the time, and so it formed. The four couples would form a square formation, kind of like square dancing today. That's where square dancing comes from. Quadrille means square. So couples would dance together ballroom style, partnering, whereas on the right you see the rumba circle where I'm dancing with Sophie as a couple, and we're facing off. So here's an image demonstration, Sophie and I doing the facing off for the rumba, and then Sophie and I partnering in the quadrille with the ballroom stance. So I hope that that gives you an idea of how you can use dance as a focus to teach social concepts. Here are some of the references that I use for this presentation. And here are some of the references that I've drawn some of my other presentations for this presentation. And special thanks to Mike Strong and Sophie for helping me with this presentation. And I want to thank you very much for bearing up with me on this presentation. So I hope you enjoyed it.